I decided to add an option to the large file of this swirl design, and the large file I'm speaking of is the one that is made for the tubular type of multi-needle machines, like my Janome Mb4 or Brother 6 or 10 needle or Bernina multi-needle or Tajima Embird. Those machines all have a horizontal type orientation to their hoop, to their larger hoops. So I rotated the design for those machines and so on. But those machines also can pose a problem with the tie-on, and it's not as easy to make a clean tie-on a lot of times with a tubular machine. So I wrestled back and forth with pulling up the bobbin thread and holding the threads off to the side or hooking them in the spring. And sometimes I was lucky and got a clean tie-on and sometimes not. So I finally gave in and decided to add some vertical stitches here off to the side, like 4, 4, 5, and then a jump over to the first stitch so that it could make a nice tie-on, you know, because it has something to pull against. It pulls against this row of stitches. So, and then you'll have this long jump that you can bury when the design is all done. The reason I didn't want to do that is because when it does jump over and then the machine starts stitching and stitches around, as it comes around here, it's going to be stitching over that long jump thread, you know. And sometimes that can cause issues because it could split that jump thread. So then when you try to release the jump thread to bury it, you can't because it's split. And then if you try to pull on it, you can pull up these stitches. So I did try to look at how it's going to stitch. And so I tried to make the jump not be in line with a stitch penetration. But, you know, these are little stitches and they're variables of everybody's machine and fabric and so on. So I'm going to try it. There's no tie-ons or tie-offs for this row of stitches, so I don't even know if it's going to hold. We'll see. And we'll just see how it works. So I'm going to take this off. And I have the design pulled up here. But just so you know, let me go back to the beginning with this thread color. If I press this button, it'll show me what's going to stitch first, and that's the crosshair. Well, let's pretend like I already did my center and my rotation and everything, and I'm done with the crosshair. So I'm going to fast forward to the next thread color, which is the design, and you'll see there's the vertical line. So it's going to start at the bottom, stitch up, and then jump over. So it's all the same color. That's what a jump is. A jump is just like a long connection of two objects of the same color. So let's just see how it goes. Okay, so I got the better camera to do this. So let's push back the lever, and I'm actually going to pull up my bobbin thread because I did try this off camera just now without pulling up the bobbin thread, and my machine dragged the top thread underneath, and it gave me a couple loops. So, and I'm sure it's because it's not making a tie-on or anything. It's just starting to stitch. And I didn't want to make a tie-on for this vertical line because then it'd be too hard to take out, you know, when you want to pull that jump thread and bury it. So anyways, so I am going to pull up the bobbin thread. So I'll hit start once and I get the warning. And then I hit it twice quickly. Pull up my bobbin thread. And I think, did I put it in the spring? I think I did, because it's just traveling up. So I'll just put it in the spring for this. Hit it once, get the warning, and now just hit it once to stitch. And then I'll pull this out. And so now it's going to stitch over that jump thread. And I'll stop it and I'll just cut it so we can see what it looks like. Because I'll probably take these stitches out. Did I trim it? I think I did. Yeah. Okay. So there's our tie-on, and it's really nice. You can't even see it. It's a little dot right there. And let's see if it's stitched over. It figures right in the black. But it looks like the thread is not where stitch penetration is, but let's just see. Let's come over here and see if we can, let's see what that looks like. Okay, so here's where it started, and I do have a little loop. I put it in the spring, but there's no tie-on, so that little loop is nothing. That's nothing. So this will come right out. So I could probably, using my thread ripper, looking through the camera. Hope I have it the right way so I don't cut the threads. I guess I won't look through the camera. Oop. Boy, I snagged that, didn't I? I just split my own thread. So there, so that's taken out. And now right here, let's see. Okay, it's coming out. So I did a good job of digitizing that on screen. I made sure that this thread would not land in, this jump thread would not land where a stitch penetration is, but who knows if somebody else would have that problem. So anyways, so that's fine. Boy, I made a mess there, didn't I? Oh well, I screwed up. But that knot in the back looks great too. So that tie-on is nice and small, and that's because it had something to pull against. So I guess, you know, this is how it will be. So I'll pull this one as well. Oh, I got a couple of snaggies there as I pulled that. It wasn't bad, and it could have just been the fabric, but... And so, you know, you have this on the top thread on this side and the bobbin thread on the other, so you just have to decide which way you want to bring your threads to bury them. So I'll just pull on this and see if I get a loop back here, and I don't. That's how good that tie-on was. I thought maybe I could pull the top thread through. So that means that you have to put it through with your snag needle. And that's kind of a bummer, you know, which is the other reason why I thought about getting a single needle for this, but I don't know. I'm still deciding. So let's see if I can put this down a little. So when you stick this through, you probably want to go right on the tip, but you have to slant it towards the path, because you have to make sure, you know, that it's going through correctly on this side, and it is. So then I'll snag it. Sometimes I snag it like this, you know, after I've already inserted the needle, because then things don't get tangled. And then I would just bury this. This is way too long. And I have this knot here that I made. And again, this is embroidery thread, because I'm having problems with my quilting thread and tension on my Janome Mb4. It seems to do okay on a regular sewing machine, but on this Mb4, it doesn't give me enough tension, enough friction. I think it's too smooth. I'm not sure. But there's my knot. It's a 1/4 of an inch away from where it came out of. And again, I just made a single knot and put the needle in that loop and pulled. And there's my knot. And then a lot of times I go in the stitch next to it and underneath it, but these are so nice that I'm just going to kind of, you don't want to go into a hole that's already made. You want to create a new hole. So I'll just kind of go next to it a little bit, in between the batting. And sometimes I try to stay close to the stitching when I come out. And I'll go ahead and snag it, pull out some slack. Oops, I don't know if I was in the camera. It's so hard to film when you're doing this. So I might have been off camera, so let's try again. There's my knot. I don't know if you can see it. It's right there. And I basically went like this and made a single knot, brought the thread through, stuck the needle in the loop, and then pulled the thread tight around the needle, pulled the needle out. And now I'm going to go in. I'm going to make its own new hole, kind of next to it. At times I've gone above it and created a new hole. That kind of works well too. So, and other times I've gone underneath the stitch that was just made, but this is such a good knot, it's too tight. So if I go to the next stitch, that's too far away. I mean, this is such a great tie-on now that, you know, I don't know where to go. So I'm in between the batting, and I'll snag the needle, pull out some slack, and make sure I went away more than 1/4 of an inch and snap it in. And then that's my knot. And then just pull this up, slant my needle, and go like that. And that's that. So I guess that's how I'm going to do it with the multi-needle. And here it is on the just a little dot. So hopefully that won't ever cause a problem. So I'll try it on my next one, my next hooping. And so it'll be an optional file. There'll be the regular one where you just, if you have a machine that makes a good tie on, you know, after you pull up the bobbin thread. And then there'll be this one, just for the big hoop though. So if you need this jump for the smaller versions, you'll have to let me know. I just don't think they're necessary on a single needle. But, you know, somebody might want to stitch a smaller version of this with their multi-needle machine, and then they may need a jump. But just write me and I'll be glad to just send it to you. All right. So when you watch the rest of this video and you see me struggling with, you know, this tie on right here, you'll understand why I had to change it to have this jump going all the way over to that tie on. So when we get to that point where I'm, you know, doing my tie-ons, you probably want to disregard it. Unless you have a machine that does it nice and neat, then of course you can use the original version that does not include this long jump here. So without further ado then, here is the video. Okay, well, I got my backing sewn on. I just added this gray strip and then all of this and more beige. And I tried to make it so that it would stick out past the batting. And as you can see, my batting is still on incorrectly. I thought I trimmed it right, but it's okay because when I put the next batting on, it's just going to be zigzagged. You're never going to know I have a crooked line in there. Or I could try and straighten it up again in the same manner that I did, you know, the other when I put it on. So I just kind of left it on the ironing board after I ironed. I ironed all my seams open, and I just think it's easier to iron the backing open because then you don't have to worry. You know all the seams are open, and that's the way all the backing's going to be. Now when I stitched I don't know if you can see this, but probably can't. But this is the new backing from the gray down. Well, the backing that was already there, it's already starting to fray. And, you know, because I'm handling it a lot and so on. But plus, these solids, the good ones, the Modas and the Bella solid and all that, they do fray very easily. But, you know, we like them. We all like them. So what I did was on my 1/4-inch foot, on my Janome, I moved the needle position all the way. Let's see if I can. I moved the needle position, I don't know, there's a lot of glare, all the way to go into this hole here. So on my Janome, I moved it to the left zero. It says 0, 0 now. And when the needle is going in that hole, and I line up with this edge here, it's 3/8 of an inch instead of 1/4. So I've just kind of, after I ironed all the seams open, I just kind of left everything on the ironing board here. It's a 4-foot, it's a 4x8 sheet of plywood wrapped in with just one layer of batting on top of it, and then this stuff that you could buy at Joann's, you know, from, I forget what it's called. It's a utility fabric for ironing boards. And when it gets bad, I just buy a new one. So I left everything here, and I just kind of folded accordion style all of the, I'll get these out of the way for a minute. I just folded this accordion style in the back, and then here's my, you can kind of see where my design ended here. So I've been using just 2 ghosts to line up. I like that. I really do. I'm probably going to feed the machine, feed this fabric into the machine. This will be the top of my quilt, and I'll push this up into my machine. So I'm probably, given that, I probably should start with the design that's up higher. So it's up here more, I see. So here's the ghost for that right here. And you can't really see the stitches, but let's see, and I put a T here for top. This here goes here. So this lines up with that. And you can't see this one, but it's under there because of the thread. And then this, of course, is the new design. So that's kind of why I like to use the ghost, because it has the old design I can line up, and then I can line up my new design. And then one other tip that I decided to start doing, if I am going to use this for my previous stitching, I moved my tape down. You could see my double-sided tape is here and here. And the reason I did that is because when I take my future ghost here, I want to slide it under. And so I want to line up this with this, and I want to slide it under there and line it up. Because eventually this is going to stay and go to the machine. This is going to come off. So I didn't want this tape to be down here, you know, in my way. Then I wouldn't be able to slide this under. So I figure wherever the overlap is, wherever this ghost is, put your tape beyond that. And mine's way up here. So you kind of want to put this ghost on your previous stitching. Then this line here, you kind of want it to be parallel with some line on your quilt. And even if these don't match up with the design, remember, we're straightening as we go, and this is very forgiving because of the gap between them. We don't have to match up point to point or anything. So I'm going to kind of put that, that kind of looks parallel, and then I'll press those down. And then I'll take this one and do the same thing. I'll slide it under, line up this with this ghost here, line this up with this one as best I can, line up the crosshairs, and then more importantly, or just as important, make sure that my crosshairs and my straight lines run parallel with some lines on the quilt, like this one here with this line on the quilt. And I can fudge my design, I can rotate it or whatever, you know, just to make sure that I'm parallel here and here, and it looks good. So this is the placement I want, but guess what? I forgot to put my tape on the back side of this, so I have to go get some tape. One sec. So I cut off about 5 inches, and I'll just use this narrow tape. I really don't have to use the narrow tape on my current template. The narrow tape is more for my next template, but I forgot. But I cut about 5 inches and then cut that 5 inches into 3 pieces. So, and I've been putting it at like the top, where the top is. So that would be here. And how have I been putting it? I think I've been putting it this way, but I can't recall. Like vertical. And so let me line it up. Again, slide it under there. Match it up. Make sure it looks parallel over here. This line is a good one to look at. With this line here, it looks pretty good. And, you know, of course, I keep saying it doesn't have to be perfect, so I'm just going to press down in those 3 spots. And then my next template is the hoop template that I bent. I bent it up. And it has the double-sided tape. Let me make sure I have this going the right way. You could see the arrows are pointing up. So this is my up that way. That's the way I'm going to feed this in. But the tape on these is off to the side. So this is my stitch area. So the tape is nowhere in the stitch area at all. So it's outside of the stitch area. So there's 1, 2, and then 3. And that's it. I didn't even put any at the bottom. So I'll match up this crosshair with this crosshair. And this is just for hooping. As soon as we get done hooping, this hoop template will come off. And then we'll go by the design template when we get to the machine. That's our Bible, basically. Now, here's something I forgot. This hoop template has tape on it. I didn't need this anymore. So, see, it's going to stick to that now. What I should have done, and see, I got some of the magic marker came off on here. What I should have done is once this is down and smashed down and taped, I don't need this anymore. So I'll just take this one off. I guess I'm going to be printing another template. I mean, that one's okay. It's kind of junky. So then I can put this down. Now there's magic marker right there. That concerns me because that's going to go on my fabric. So I'm going to take this tape off. Okay. So I'll line up the crosshairs. I have my arrows going in the right way. I'll line up this crosshair with this one. And I'm kind of pressing at the bottom because I know there's no tape at the bottom. So it's pressed down here, here, 3 spots. Now I'll get the inner ring, and remember the inner ring has double-sided tape here, 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 and here. And this is, oh, this isn't even sticking anymore. So hopefully we'll have a good hooping. The sides aren't bad, but these skinny ones. So I have the thick tape on the sides and the skinny tape here. We'll see. We'll see if the sides are enough. But here's the thing. This is going to bang in to, I don't have enough room here, over here. So I have to pull this out. So one sec. So make sure my arrows are going up, and I'll just lay this, and it should lock right on, and it did. And I'll press down because I have that double-sided tape. And then for my bottom ring, so the bottom ring, this has to be in the lower left corner. And if you'll notice, I found something that has the exact width that I need to set my ring. It's a heavy 1/2-inch gap, more like 5/8, and these Wonder Clips just fit it perfectly. So that's kind of cool. So that's how I've been storing it now. So there's another tip for you. I'm taking it off for when I go to the hoop, because who knows, it's underneath, it could come off, it could get jammed in somewhere. So I'll go ahead and put this under, and I'll come in from right under here. I'll just grab this fabric and kind of lift it all up. And so, just like before, wherever I feel a gap, there's a gap right here. I'll just take and press my hand outside of the ring, and that pushes the ring. Now, it's not sliding as easily because I'm on my table, but this is a little slippery, this fabric. So, it's not bad. And remember, I was saying that I wanted to make sure my backing was longer than the batting. And that's so that I could give it a tug before I push down on the inner ring. So I'll be doing that, just so you know. Try to get this in as best I can. So it feels like it's right where it should be, but there's a gap here, so I'm going to press and move the inner ring. There. So it feels good all the way around, so then now I'm going to just give this a tug, and I'm going to maybe somehow try to hold that. So, because remember, the backing, it doesn't have anything, any sticky double-sided tape on it or anything. So I think it's okay. What I should have done before I put my ring in was give the backing a tug. But we'll just see. I'll hoop it, and then I'll check it and see if there's any puckers like over here. I mean, it should be fine, but you never know. Push that a little. I felt a gap there. Okay, so my clasp is here, so usually that's the first place I like to press down, is this corner. Okay, now I've got this whole side, so I'm going to go like this, and I'm going to walk it around, press that, and there we go. That almost feels too tight. I almost feel like it was too tight. I don't know. It does feel like it's hooped really great, but I don't know if I like that, the way it went in. I mean, I'm going to loosen it, so maybe that clip isn't enough. So I loosened it about a half a turn. So now I'll press the rest of the way. I just don't want to stretch my fabric. So now I'm recessing the hoop. I guess it's not that tight. And I know a lot of people like the magnetic hoops, and you know, I wouldn't mind one, but I don't feel like they're tight enough and secure enough. It's really tight right here. It's looser right here. So I feel it. It's 1/8 of an inch recessed on the bottom. So I'll go ahead and take a look. And I don't see any pleats, any puckers, or anything. It's really nice. And down here is my previous stitching. So it looks great. So we'll just go to the hoop then and do our centering and our rotating and stitch it out. Okay, so here we are at the machine, and as you recall, this is that table that I've pretty much adopted to be my table in front of the machine. It's just a computer table, and it's curved at the top. It's on wheels, slippery. It's actually slightly lower than the hoop, so I do have to, you know, move it away from the hoop, make sure I have 4 hands away from this edge. But because it's slightly lower than the hoop, I almost feel safe enough that if I do forget, it might not be a total catastrophe. But so anyways, and so this is where I'm basically going to be rehooping, is right here, and just put the hoop on the machine. So we'll go ahead and I'll get my excess up here and try to get everything in the camera as best I can. So if you recall, when you hoop, this top part, or this front part, has to go up over and into the arm, but the sides have to go down right here. So I'm going to slide this close to the machine. So I'm going to pull this up over the arm, make this go down, and kind of bring my hoop in. So I'm going to get it started a little. pull this fabric up. This side's easy because there's not much there. And the batting is hanging down with the backing. So I'm pulling up the left side. So a lot of the bulk here is on the left side, a lot of the quilt. So I'll just kind of address that a little. So I'm pushing it in a little bit and then adjusting the back, making sure I have everything, the batting, the backing, and the top. And so I'm pulling it up over, but then the sides are down. So it's fine. It's been working out. So I'll go ahead and push it in the rest of the way. And that is the nice thing that I decided that I like about hooping, is that I can see my my hoop arm. I can see if I'm forgetting to push it in all the way. I can see the hoop. I can see everything, and it's secure. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I love hooping more than anything. Now, granted, I don't have a big mighty hoop or a strong magnetic hoop, but I don't know, I kind of decided I don't want one just because your center is different then. And then you have to adjust for that. I have to make my design smaller. I may change my mind, but for right now, I'm really liking just the hooping. So now that it's pushed in all the way, I'm going to adjust the table to be more on the left since it's on wheels. It slides over very easily. So then that'll take on most of the weight of the fabric. And I'll just kind of make sure though with my hand, because remember this needle is in the center, but when the carriage pushes the hoop out, it's going to come out more. And here's my table here. I think you can still see me. So I still want it to be even farther away. So that's about good. So I'm good with that, and I'll just kind of put the bulk of my quilt like that, and I think I'll be just fine. I think it has plenty of room to move around. Okay, so now that we're hooped, we'll look at the machine here. I should start from square one, show you what I'm going to do. So I'll just X out of this, and I'll click on open. If this is the first time I'm opening it, of course I'm going to open from the USB. But if I've already opened it from the USB, assigned my needles, saved it to the RCS, then I would be just going into the RCS. But I'll just pretend like this is the first time I'm opening this design. So if that's the case, I'd click on USB, and I have it. I'm going to go backwards in the alphabet. I have it on Quilt and the Hoop 3 folder. And it's this design here. And so you can see automatically the machine assigned it to needle 1 and needle 2 for the 2 colors, the crosshair and the actual design. If you want to see what's going to stitch first, you just hit this button here. It shows you the crosshair is the highlighted color here that's going to stitch. So anyways, so when I pull it up from the USB, the first thing I want to do is assign the needles correctly. So I hit this arrow here, and I hit this icon, the second one. And this first color is highlighted. Yes, I do want it to be assigned to needle number 1, but I also don't want this to stitch. I'm just going to be following it basically. So, you know, this is the crosshair. So I want it to also stop after this color. So I'll just hit the red stop needle and it'll stop there. And then I'll go to the second color, so I'll hit the arrow down. And now that's highlighted. That's my design. Well, I want that to stitch on needle number 1 as well. And that's the last color, so I don't have to put a stop on it or anything. And then I'll hit OK. Oh, I always forget. When there's the back arrow, usually you hit that instead of OK. I don't know why they do that. And then I'll hit it again. And my colors are assigned. So at this point, I would save it to the machine. Right here, RCS unit, embroidery folder, next page. And I would save it as this. And it's showing there. Then I have to hit OK. Overwrite it, OK. And so it's saved on the RCS. So then, like I said, when I come back to it, when I do my next hooping, I'll just pull up the design from the RCS because it's quicker. The needles are already assigned and everything. I just have to do the centering and rotating, which is what we're going to do now. So we don't know if we hooped correctly. We have to see if we did. So to see if we hooped correctly, what we do is we have our crosshair on our design template, and we lock the needle down, and I still can't see if the needle is in the center of this crosshair. So I'm gonna take the hand wheel and dial it down as I should just use this to push down on the needle bar, not my finger. But as I dial the hand wheel, it'll go down and I'll see the needle now is really far down. I don't want to puncture my stencil, but I could see that the needle is slightly to the left. So I need to move the needle to the right, probably about 2 mils, I think. It seems fine in a vertical manner, but in a horizontal manner, the needle needs to be moved to the right. Let me see if I can grab this. Okay, you can kind of see the needle is too far left. So if we want to move the needle, we actually want to hear the carriage move, and that really lets us see where the needle is going to fall. We don't want to move the design on the screen, in the edit screen or anything like that, because we really can't see what the needle's doing. So we want to use these arrow buttons here that move the carriage, which essentially moves the needle. And basically, you will see that the design moved when we go to the edit screen later. So basically, you want to think of these buttons as moving the needle, and basically you're moving the design because wherever the needle goes, that's where the design is. So anyways, we're going to move it to the left, and this doesn't tell you how many mils you moved it. I wish it did, but it doesn't. So we're just gonna I'm gonna be moving this arrow because that's gonna move the needle. Did I say move it to the left? I meant we're moving the needle to the right because the needle is too far to the left. So we're moving it to the right. So just know that I'm going to press this button because I can't really get everything in the camera. Okay. So, and I'm probably going to get a warning because I dialed the hand wheel down. And so when I go to press this button, there is going to be a warning. So you'll see needle bar's out of position. So when I hit OK here, you'll see that you can see my take-up lever here is down, and it'll move into position when I hit OK. Okay, so now I can move the needle to the right. So I moved it 10 times, and now I'm going to see where that put me. It wasn't enough, so I can lock it down because I didn't move the hand wheel, and it'll stay down as I press the button. So I'm going to go 10 more. So that was 10 more, and I think it's moving 0.1 millimeters with each click. So if I moved it 10 times, that would be 1 mil, and then another 10 times, as you saw, that's another mil. So I have moved it about 2 mils, and it almost looks centered. I'm going to go maybe 5 more. Okay, now I think it's really centered, and I can dial it down to see. So again, I'm turning the hand wheel. If you're looking at the machine, the hand wheel is being turned like to the left of the machine. So it looks directly in the center now, so I'm happy with that. I'm going to move the hand wheel to the right because it looks like I punctured the fabric. It's still going to give me a warning now. So we're good as far as centering goes. So now what we want to do is we want to follow the crosshair that's in our design and see if that crosshair in the design, if I hit this button, we want to see if this crosshair, when I follow it, we want to see if this crosshair follows the crosshair on our design template. Because, you know, this design template is where we want the machine to stitch. So we really want this crosshair on the machine, on the screen, to be the same as this. But we're going to change the crosshair on the screen if it doesn't coincide with this one. This is our guide here. This is our rule or whatever. This is our template that we're following. And we're going to make this follow the design template. If it doesn't already, it may. I may not need to rotate it, but we're going to see. So to do that, we'll go ahead and lock this down. And now it's not letting me lock it because I dialed the needle bar back. So, and if I hit fast forward, first of all, I'm going to get a warning. needle bar's out of position, hit OK, and it'll go into position. So now if I hit fast forward, so it'll move over to where we want it to be, right on the first or second stitch of the crosshair. It's saying it's 24, but I don't know. Sometimes that's goofy. So I'm kind of bummed out because I thought I changed this design to start the crosshair up here at the vertical. And I may have, but this is the only hoop where I've had to rotate the design because most of your single needles have it vertical. So I'm going to have to change this again, but for this video then, just know that the crosshair is starting on the horizontal line. But for future videos, or if you were to purchase this file, I like the crosshair to start on the vertical. It's just easier to see if you need to rotate. So I'll be changing that when we get done here. So anyways, so that's the first few stitches. So we'll hit it again, and I'll just hit it one more time. It's making its locking stitch. So now it's pretty much, you know, going to follow this horizontal now. So I can dial my needle down now and see if I'm above or below that horizontal. So again, I'm dialing it to the left. I'm actually right on, so I'm going to dial it back the other way, and I'm going to hit fast forward. I really thought, it's giving me an error because I dialed down. I really thought that it would be off so that I could show you rotation, but I've shown rotation on my other videos. So, but let's just see. I'm going to fast forward to the other end. If you just hold it down, it starts to take a... So I'm going to fast forward. I should have had that showing. It was just moving horizontally. And that's a good spot because I could see everything. So let me lock this down and see where it's at. So if I dial the needle again, so it doesn't need to be rotated. If it did need to be rotated, you basically, you'll have to look at my other videos, but if, say, the needle was below my horizontal line, that would mean that the needle was like this. And so basically what we do is we think of the needle as a spinner on a game board. And if the needle is below the horizontal line over here, well, that meant it was probably above the horizontal line over here. And to get the needle to be on the horizontal, it looks like we have to rotate it counterclockwise, you know, a degree or two. And so that's what we would do. But the way we would do it then is we would have to go into the edit screen. We'd have to say, click on menu here and go into the edit screen. And then here's our rotation. We'd have to hit that, and I said that it was too low, so we'd have to go counterclockwise, which is this button. And you'll see down here, since we're going counterclockwise, this will change from 360, because 0 and 360 are the same position, if this is the position. If it were to rotate clockwise, it's 90 degrees clockwise, 180 degree clockwise, 270 degrees clockwise, and then 360. So 360 and 0 are the same position. So if I go counterclockwise, then it would be, instead of 360, it would be, say, 359 or whatever, however many degrees I go. So you would hit this and see it says 359, and you can see the design rotated. But I'll go back to 0. And you can see the red crosshair is the crosshair that belongs to the screen. And you can kind of see my green crosshair is not in line with the red one because we moved the design using these jog buttons. So that's what I was telling you about the jog buttons, that we don't know how much we jogged, but it shows it on here that we did jog, just so you know. But here's the thing, when you leave this screen and go back to the sewing, the ready to sew screen, the carriage is going to move to the center of the hoop, not the center of the design that we programmed in, but the center of the hoop. And that's going to confuse you because you're going to think that it didn't hold your parameters here that we did earlier. But rest assured, it did. Because if you were to say fast forward through the crosshair, you would see the needle would jog a couple of mils, the couple mils that we moved it. So, because remember, we moved the needle to the right. And if red is the screen's crosshair or the hoop template's crosshair, the hoop template's crosshair, not the design template. But if the red crosshair is the hoop template's crosshair and the green is our design template crosshair, you can see that the green crosshair is moved to the right, which is because we moved it to the right. We moved the needle to the right, hence we moved the entire design to the right. Not just the crosshair, but the entire design moved. And the reason why that's happening like that is because we brought the design in as one unit. You know, we brought the design in with a crosshair and a design on it, both. So I hope you were able to see that screen. So anyways, so we're good. We don't have to rotate, and we didn't. I put it back to 0, so we're going to hit OK. And so as it's going back to the hoops template. If I click this down, you can see the needle looks like it's too far to the left of the crosshair again. But don't worry, our settings are still saved on that edit screen. So anyways, we're done. We centered, we checked for rotation, we can take this off, and remember we have a tape here in the center, so let's press on the fabric, and then we have one up here, and then I believe we have one on the left side, and that's all we have. And that's why I like these, because I don't want to have that stuff that people are selling that has sticky all throughout the whole hoop. It's too hard to work with. And then you'll pull it up and you'll pull up your fabric and everything. So anyways, we're ready to go. But remember, we're still on the crosshair, so we want to fast forward to the next thread color. And that's what this plus thread color is. And that brought it forward, and as it brought it forward, I got a little nervous that I didn't have this table moved enough. But it's okay. It's moved. I have plenty of room here. So I'm good, and my table's on wheels. so I'm good there. So we're on our correct color, and so now I'm going to pull up my bobbin thread. So I've got a hold of my thread. It's saying machine starts to run. So when I see that warning, I have to hit start 2 times real fast. So that means that this needle is going to pop up. So I have to be prepared. Let me pull out more thread so my fingers are away from it. So I'll just do this. Notice how I hit it really fast and it just went down, pulled up my bobbin thread by pulling on this. So now I have both of them. I'm going to hook them both in the spring. This is the top thread. I'm going to put that on the left. So they're both in the spring. Now I hit start 1 time, get the warning, and then I hit start and I count 1, 2 and hit it again. 1, 2. Okay, see, I was too slow. It went in the fabric 4 times. I only wanted it to go into the fabric 3 times. That's why you count 1, 2, and stop. But I'm out of kilter here. So here's my 2 threads. I'm going to pull on this top thread. Got a little twisted. Okay, there. I was able to pull some slack. And there I pulled the bobbin. Now they're nice and tight. There's a knot. I think I should have a good clean tie on. Now I have to think about this. My design is starting here, and it's going to come around like this, and I don't want it to stitch over this thread. So I got to try and remember where I was holding the threads. So I think I was holding them I don't remember, because I can see I should be holding them on this side so that but I have to stop the machine. So I'm going to just start it and stop it right away. So let me put this down. Get my warning. So I stopped it. Now I'll take my thread and let's see, it's going to come around and it's going to come around like this. So I'm going to just hold it here because I really don't remember. Okay, it comes around. I think I drape it on the back now because I think I'm good. Let me just make sure it's draped back there. And you can even tape it back there, but I think it'll just stick to the fabric now. So I'm good now. Notice I'm just hitting it 1 time now because I just wanted to sew. And plus I made all these blocks, and I really got into Eleanor Burns and all of her lovely tutorials. So now it's jumping and just making 2 stitches because then I have a long thread that I can bury. Because most machines, well, not all of them, a lot of the newer brothers, if you tell it not to trim after a color change, it won't trim. But this Janome Mb4 will trim after a color change, so you have to make a long jump if you want to bury your threads, and I do. So my camera stopped. I think it stops every 33 minutes. So anyway, so my plan is to, slide this table in front of the machine and just take it off and slide it right on the table. And I would do all of my burying of my threads and everything else right here on this table. I would rehoop on the table as well and do all my smoothing. Now granted, I think it would be nice if I had maybe slightly bigger table, maybe not wide this way, but longer that way, but it's okay so far. It just looks really, really nice. And now for the unveiling of the back. That's always the test. See how my tie-ons are. So this is the tie-on here where I pulled on those threads. You can see it's like nothing. And here's our ending stitch. It's just as beautiful. And let's see how our stitches look. They look great. There's no railroad tracks, and that was the hardest thing to get on this machine, was to make the bottom loose enough and the top tight enough to allow these top and bottom threads to meet in the middle where the batting is. That was really hard, and that's why I had to adjust the pre-tensioner and turn the machine all the way up and everything. I was even thinking about loosening the bobbin tension even more. Right now it's on 100 grams of pull with the TOA gauge. I think it's on 100. Let me see. Mb4. Well, that's not grams. That's in MN as in Nancy M. Millinewtons. In grams, it's at 10 grams. But the top is at 220 grams. So that was this one here, and so we're not going to hoop up here yet because we're not ready to do the top. We're just trying to work our way on the sides, and for right now we're doing the right side, and we don't want to hoop any more of this. This is about this design ends here. That's about a hand's width from the edge. That's what we want. You can see where we hooped here. Thank goodness it hooped here and not here and didn't stretch the fabric. That's good. That's what we want. So if I would have hooped too close to here, I would have had to have added more fabric here. But we're good. So now we're going to hoop right here below this one. And so I'm just going to do it right here. I have embroidery here. So I just need to kind of gently smooth this. Everything sticks to the batting. I can give a little tug on my backing here. You know, and that's why I wanted it to be out farther. I can put my hand here and kind of make sure. no pinning or anything, just smoothing. And I'm ready to go. So I'll take my design template and my my 2 design templates. This is the junky one that I don't like. And I'll just kind of, this is the top. So if you're looking at it from this angle, I know there's a reflection on this, but this is the top, and that's the top up there. And I'll just put it, let's see. Okay, there. That's where it goes. I'm lining it up on everything. And so if I line this up and try to, remember we're going to correct as we go, try to get it so that this line is parallel with, say, this line, the line on the template, and kind of, you know, correct as I go. So now I'm going to tape that just so I could see it. And then this is the one we're going to hoop. I'll slide this under, lining up this with this ghost and this with this. And then before I press, my tape is all at the top on this one, and I think I had one here in the center. But before I press anything, and again, this is why I don't like tape on the whole thing at the, you know, on the bottom. I want to check these lines. Now you can see this line is not parallel with this yellow line at all. But it looks kind of parallel here. So what's off? I mean, well, there, I was off. Okay, that's not bad. I could rotate it just a hair, but then I'll be too close right here. So I have to cut the difference, and that's fine, because none of us piece, you know, perfectly. And, you know, when you embroider, or quilt, things get pulled in, and I'm off up here. Let me see if I need to bring this down here. That looks about right. Let's see. I'm happy with that. This line and this line, I really want to be looking good, and it does. So now I'll press those down, right down here, and I don't need this anymore. So I'll line this up, crosshair to crosshair. Kind of can't see very well. Press that down, is there in the center and over there, and that's it, just the 3 on the top. Grab my inner ring. It should lock in pretty good, and it does. And remember, I'm running out of tape on this one, on these sides. These probably are still good. And then we'll take our ring, and remember, I loosened it. Let's see how this one feels. So I'm going to come in from this side now, because it's the easiest side to come in from. And I'm going to lift up the hoop and slide it under. And I'm going to be tugging the back fabric, kind of. So I'm kind of tugging on this. See if I can get that all in. I'm kind of tugging on this as I'm pushing the hoop in place. so now I can go like this because I feel a gap here, so I can go like that. I feel a gap here though. Well, no, that's the hoop thing. It's fine. Actually, it's here. Okay. I think I'm good. Let me push this. I feel a gap here. All right. Okay, it feels like it's going to go in. So I'll start right here at this corner where the dial is. And I'm going to press here while I'm supporting it. No, maybe not. It's not going to go in. So I might have to give it a little more. Okay, there it went in. Okay. So I'm kind of pushing this into this corner here. And I'm going to support this. Oops. I'm going to just walk around this way since it wants to go there before I do this corner. I just wanted to go in there. And that's kind of the way I've been doing it, to be honest. I'm thinking of my little brother 4x4 machine. With that machine, I was doing both these two kind of together almost. Like I do this and then hold them. But with this big hoop, I remember now I was doing this one and then walking myself around. I don't know. It's kind of like which one wants to go in. I keep following the path of least resistance. But I always start with the one where the dial is. So they're in. So I'm going to go ahead and recess them all. It went in really smoothly this time. So it's not real tight, but this corner is tight again, just like the other one was. So to recess this, I'm kind of going to go underneath. There we go. You just want the hoops, the inner and outer ring, to be flush on top. And when you have 1/8 of an inch sticking out on the bottom, that usually makes it flush on top. This one was already fine, I think. Okay. All right. And so we're done with this. I didn't show me taking this off on the last hooping. And I'm pressing down in these 3 spots. I'm pressing on the fabric so it doesn't come up. And that's that. And so now we'll go in. So now we've got a little bit more fabric to feed in, but that's okay. It's almost better because then it really sticks. I just banged my machine. So we'll go ahead and we'll push this forward. Grab some of this off the floor. So we'll pull this up and over. And remember, we got to get the batting, the backing, everything up and over. And then this will come these will go pushed down, and this will start it. And then we'll pull this again. And then we'll push a little more. And there's a lot of bulk over here, so I'm kind of like pulling it. Show you. Over here, I'm kind of pulling this up just so that it's, you know, it's not having a hard time coming up and over the back. So, and that kind of keeps it in place by this being up over in the back and this being under and then coming through here. It actually kind of keeps it in place. It really does. So at first it would seem like it's an encumbrance. That's a word, encumbrance. But now I'm kind of grateful for it almost, because it does allow some stability. Remember, I'm not in all the way. So, and this time I'm going to make sure I check my bottom so it's locked in. So I'm going to move this off to the side a little bit and kind of pull my fabric up loosely. And I'm going to check under my hoop, my hand, make sure. You know, I didn't hoop that great this time. It doesn't seem as tight. I don't know how happy I am. I don't know if I want to take it out and redo it or not. Or maybe I should experiment and see. Because it's not puckering. I'm going to just go for it. I'm going to go for it and see. Since we already moved this design, we don't want to move it anymore. Because remember, the design always goes back to the hoop center. So we want to pull up, we want to go ahead and pull up the design that's saved on the RCS. So let's go to Open, and then RCS, Mb4. Here it is here. Okay, and there it is saved. And there's our crosshair. Everything is good. So we just have to check for center. So we got those two done, and now we're not doing down here, I don't think, because, well, I do have enough backing to do this one, but I would have to do the center first, because I want to work from the center out so I can smooth it. And I don't have enough backing here. Oh yeah, I do. The backing comes to about here. And I think I was saving this. So I'll probably just do, because I was going to do this whole front at the same time. I'm just trying to work outward. So now that these two are done, these two, I'll work on this opposite end, which means this end over here. So I have to do 1, 2, but do them here and here. So I'm going to be hooping like there and then here. But I have to put batting on, more batting and more backing. So I'll be doing the same thing I did on the other side, but doing it here. Once that's done, then I don't have to worry about going outward anymore. I'll have almost 60 inches wide. So then I'll just start working on the top and the bottom. So I'll only be working on the ends then, which was my whole goal, to always just be working on the outer edge, 24 inches, no more than that. So I'll go ahead and work on getting my batting and backing on, and I'll actually just quilt these two, and then the next time we meet, we'll be ready to do the tops and the bottoms, working on the edge only. Okay. See you later.